A library is organized by theme and by topic. You can look up online and you say, I want a book about lions in the jungle in 1922, and it leads you right to a number, and there it is. If you go to an archive, it might be organized by the collection's name, but you can't say, I want a book about a lion in the jungle. You have to go to the collection that says jungle, and you may or may not find a lion in there. It's really far more of a puzzle that you have to put together, whereas at the library, the puzzle's been put together for you.
Imagine yourself going to the fishing grounds. You know, you've done your research, you know where the fish are, but you don't know the quantities or maybe the exact species. So you go to an archive, you cast out your net, you pull it in. Sometimes your net is empty, sometimes you've got a small amount of fish, and sometimes you've got a mother load, and sometimes you've just got something you weren't even expecting at all. Sometimes you pull in like the Kraken, you know? So you go to a research, you sort of do your legwork beforehand. You look at the catalog, you know what it is that you're researching, and you sort of get a few files that you want to pull, and you ask the archivist for advice. You get your boxes and your folders, but you don't know specifically what's in there. And you can really come away just astounded by the wealth of information.
So libraries are mostly for documents that have been processed, books, things that other people have thought through. Well, archives are almost the stuff you find in the wastebasket. Yes, they're government documents and sort of official record, but they're also grocery lists and personal letters and all these little tiny scraps of paper we have in our lives.
An archive is a multiplicity of kinds of objects, ideas, sources of information that is an invitation to think in new ways about those objects in there. So to go in with a spirit of interest and to follow primarily what interests you in the archive and not lose a sense of that, and keep good notes along the way.
Oftentimes the official record, say the government record, is not necessarily complete. And there's lots of reasons for that. But archives at universities or independent archives have been able to keep things to preserve political moments, to preserve the legacy of people who might not agree with the government and who you might not agree with as well. But they're able to preserve that legacy. They're also a way to keep information safe. One of the main goals of archives is to protect the collections they have. So when they take an object or they take a document or they take information that might be at risk, whether it's during a war or political change, they're protecting that, and they're protecting that opinion. They're protecting those facts, that view. And that's incredibly important because we need places where those items and those thoughts can be preserved forever, and where those thoughts and those ideas can help us understand that there's more than one perspective. They preserve many perspectives, and there are archives that focus on certain things, but together we have a much more well-rounded understanding about how people view the world at a given time. And that is so important, especially when voices are being silenced.
If somebody were working in the archives for the first time, the biggest piece of advice I would give them is don't go in with any preconceived ideas about what you're going to find. If you're thinking about a historical question, don't have an answer in your head ready when you go to the archive, because then you will find evidence that supports your answer. Try to just have the question, try to look at everything that you think is relevant, do your best, and then use the evidence to come to a conclusion about what you think might have happened or might answer your question.
The advice that I would give to someone who is first working in an archive is, first of all, to keep good notes of what they are reading and going through. That typically you will read many things that may or may not be useful to you, and you want a good index or set of notes for what you are seeing and becoming aware of. But I would also say that the most important thing is to follow what interests you.
There's so much in the archive. You will find what you want to find if you go in expecting to find something.
The archivists are your friends. They love what they're working with, or they wouldn't be working there. And if they know that you are interested, they will help you with anything. So that's the first advice. And the second piece of advice I would say is be patient and trust yourself. And the third advice is have fun.